and present. So welcome again, this is Catherine. We'll be talking about some sort of beginner-friendly photo editing tools and tools to create things involving your photos, such as brochures or business cards, greeting cards, etc. If you were looking for a more advanced Photoshop class, that's not what this is, but it is what it is. So I've divided it into 3 sections. We have a few web-based options, so you would access them in a web browser. We have some programs that you could install on your desktop PC, Mac, your laptop, and then there are some mobile apps for those of you who prefer to work with your photos on your phone or your tablet. I'm going to launch a poll. This is optional, and it is anonymous. But if you would like to respond, feel free, just to see how many people there are who use different types of devices. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to answer that question should you so choose. I'll give you another like 30 seconds or so. It looks like people are still trickling in. And by the way, this presentation was made in CANVA, which is one of the resources I'm going to be talking about today. Okay, and I will share those results. So as you can see, we have a lot of people who are using computers, but also a few people who are using iPhones or iPads. Excellent. So I'll stop sharing and I will close that. And not everyone responded, but that's fine. All right, so first off, CANVA, which again, I used to create this presentation. It's a free online service. You need to make an account. There is a premium version and there are like stock photos and things that you can buy, but there are also some that are included with the free and or the paid versions. So with CANVA, they have a bunch of templates for different kinds of social media posts, for brochures, greeting cards, business cards, presentations. So you can use those and then repurpose it with your own imagery. They also have options for editing your photo with filters like color filters, for background removal, which both the dog on the previous slide, this guy, and the woman on the first slide came with the background initially, and I used CANVA to remove it. It's just a one-click process, so it's super, super easy. The premium version, the main advantages is you get more photos and pieces of artwork that are included. And it also has more options for exporting your image in different resolutions and different formats. And we have one person in the Q&A. Yes, I will be sending out the recording and slides. But it may be a couple of days because that's a process that we handle manually. We don't use the Zoom record to cloud feature. So yeah, it might be 2-3 days, but you'll get your recording and your slides. The slides will not have these cool animations though, because I had to export them as PDF. All right. Yeah, and so that's a web-based option. So another one, and this is just more a one single purpose tool, is Duotones. I just think it's neat to be able to create these kind of images, which basically it takes the darker tones in your picture and makes them into one color and the lighter tones into another. So you can have these sort of, sort of experimental looking images. And that's absolutely free, browser based, super, super easy, kind of fun to play around with. And I'll be showing you most of these tools afterwards, depending on what people are interested in as well. Moving right along, another site that we have is Icons 8, which has a whole bunch of different tools you can use. The one I'm featuring here is the photo collage tool. They have a bunch of included stock photos, which I sort of composited together to create this bearded cat. But they also have vector art, so sort of clip art essentially, that you can either use as is or combine into sort of your own creation. And similarly to Canva, the premium version has more export options. But the other restriction is that with the free version, you're supposed to credit Icons 8 with the the things that you've done. So you need to put a link to their website in order to use it. As a practicality, are they going to chase you down? Probably not, especially if it's on your personal social media. But, from an ethical standpoint, I would go along with their terms for sure. And again, this is a web-based tool. It's very visual. What you see is what you get. I'm going to just pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions. If you think of one later, though, you can definitely come up with it. But after this, we're moving along into the downloadable programs. Okay, it looks like nothing so far, but we can definitely handle them later. Oh, no, I jumped the gun. One more web-based one. So this is a background removal tool, REMOVE.BG. That's actually the URL for it. So again, free, or it has a premium version. And what the premium version gets you is you can download the photo in higher resolutions. But essentially it tries to identify what is the subject of your photo and gives you a few options to have that without the background so that it's transparent and you can overlay it onto other things, which is something that you can do manually if you have Photoshop or if you have a couple of the programs. Well, one of the programs I'll be talking about in a sec, but this is a much easier option, is to have essentially an AI do it. All right. Okay, and we have a question. Let's see. When you say export limitations, so I don't think that most of these, unless they have a proprietary export option, a proprietary printing service, I don't think that they directly will send it to a printing company. The most common limitation, though, is that the resolution will be low on the exported file if you use the free version of some of these services. I think with Canva, it's actually the reverse. Like, they'll let you export the full resolution, but if you want it compressed for web usage, you would need the paid version. But for most of them, it's a low resolution photo that they would let you export for free. And then for printing, that would become a problem, even though for web use, as you could see with that cat image that I had, that's not too bad. Like, that looks pretty clear. But if I were to try to print that at anything like a decent size, it would look pretty fuzzy. So yeah, if you're mostly interested in printing your creations, you should be careful of which services you use or of using the paid version. The other note is that Canva, if you're involved with nonprofit work, I believe Canva has either a free or a reduced price tier of the premium version for nonprofits. Now, I believe the library just pays because we're not technically a nonprofit, we're a public sector organization. But for those of you who volunteer with or work with a nonprofit group, that might be interesting. Okay. So the first of the downloadable programs I'm going to talk about is GNU Image Manipulation Program, also known as GIMP. The advantage of this is it's completely free. There's no such thing as a premium tier for this one. And it's very, very powerful. The disadvantage is that it's kind of challenging to use compared to the other options I've been talking about. There's quite a learning curve. It might even be worse than Photoshop in that respect, in that the way that the interface is set up, I find personally less intuitive. With that said, if you're able and willing to put in the time to learn it, it is very, very powerful. Or if you just need it for something simple, like you want to resize some images, crop some images, that sort of thing, that's not terribly hard to learn. And there is help online for it. And this is a program that you can install on a Windows, Mac, or Linux computer. So you would need one of those to use it. The other downloadable one I would talk about is Inkscape, which is more of a drawing program, to be honest. But you can import an image, say a photo, and then draw on top of it. But yeah, it's a vector drawing program, which what that means is that instead of being composed of dots, which is how most digital images are, your image would be composed of lines and curves, which means that if you try to make it bigger or smaller, it will still remain smooth. The edges will still be the same shape, instead of suddenly you make it bigger and suddenly you can see all the little tiny dots and it looks horrible, right? So it's great for like graphic artists that are trying to, produce something that will be used at multiple sizes, both in print and web. But it is, again, pretty much on the complex side. It's also completely free, so no premium tier. And it's a program for your computer. PC, Mac, and Linux versions are all available. And I'll show you what that looks like, although I'm not terribly expert with this one, but I wanted to cover it in case we have some folks who are interested in learning to use such a tool. Okay, and since that's the last of the two downloadable programs that I'm covering, there are certainly other options, but some of them are ad supported, or it's like, oh, well, you can get a free trial of Photoshop, that sort of thing. Anyway, if anyone wants to ask a question, this is a good time to. All right. So let's move along to the next one. So the next one is, you may have heard of this, it's one of the more famous of the mobile photo editing apps, which is Adobe Photoshop Express. This is free, but it does have in-app purchases, so they want your money. But honestly, there's quite a bit you can do without in-app purchases. And it's a basic photo editor app. They'll do photo correction, like color balance, red eye correction, trying to address photos that are too fuzzy, although that's somewhat limited in my experience. And if your photo's really bad, like some of mine are, you're not going to get good results. And yeah, you can put color filters on as well, as you can see in this preview image. And it's good from the perspective that what you see is what you get. You get these nice little previews, which makes it, I think, a lot more intuitive, especially if you're new to this sort of app. And it's probably more advanced than what your default photo app has, although most phones will have a photo app that offers some amount of image correction and cropping and so forth that you can do. And this is available for iPhone and iOS. What do you have to purchase to get the Photoshop Express? You do not have to purchase anything. This is free. This is a free, I can show you on the App Store, I suppose, but it is completely free. With that said, it is much, much more limited than the actual, full featured Photoshop. This is not Photoshop. This is another product under the same name from the same company that is totally free. I hope that answers your question. Another one that I like is Pixlr, which is also free, although it, again, in-app purchases, and this one also has ads, which can be a little bit annoying, but honestly, they're just little tiny bars at the top of the screen. I'll show you later what that looks like. And this is, again, it's a simple photo editor app. And what it excels at is it does color filters, similarly to what Photoshop Express does. And it does overlays. So they have some pre-made assets that you can superimpose on top of your image, as well as frames. So in this case, I've put on a frame that makes the edges of the image look weathered. And I also did some color changes. This was photographed at Filoli, which I don't know if you've been. And this one is also available for Android and iOS. Oh, the thing I forgot to mention is you can also superimpose two of your own images. So let's say you have a nice picture of your dog, you want to add it on top of the other photo, you can do that. But because it doesn't remove the background, you might have to fiddle around with it a bit to get anything really usable per se. And yeah, that's the last slide I have. So I will pause again for questions before I show you what some of these tools look like. Oh, I will also mention that Photoshop Express requires an account that you would make through Adobe. You can also use your Google account if you have one of those. Probably on iPhone, you can use your iCloud account and just connect that. But again, no purchase necessary. It's just that they want you to have a login for whatever reason. Okay, given that I'm not seeing any questions as of this moment, I'm going to exit this presentation and show you what Canva looks like, because that's where I am right now. So this is Canva. And I'm going to, I think, start a new design. And as you can see, when you click that file, new design, it gives you a lot of options. You can create one with custom dimensions, but if you're posting to let's say you're posting to Facebook, or you're creating a poster, or you're posting an Instagram story, all of these things have standardized sizes that you can just use. So for example, let's say that we're making an Instagram story. I don't know if anyone here has Instagram, but the same principles will apply if you use different social media. And so it gives you a blank slate that is the same shape as an Instagram story would be. And then it gives you these options of suggested templates that you can use. So for example, Now this one, which has people on the beach, and some of their images, well, some of their, instead of stock photos, some of them are stock videos or animations, which for an Instagram story would be potentially useful because Instagram stories are like animated, right? Or they can be at any rate. So, and then you can search the templates, like let's say food, for example. And so it gives you all of these options. So let's say I pick this one. And it's got some sample text, but you can edit it. Let's call it Catherine's Bakery. Oops, no, the bakery is already there. And then you can switch out the background image. So they have some stock photos, for example, but you could upload your own photo as well. And there's that dog that I used as well. And so let's say if I want to pick pie instead of this delightful looking cupcake, I put that in there and I hit replace background. And suddenly we have a pie, but now the text isn't a good contrast. So I can go to styles, colors, and maybe I pick a different color scheme and see what that does. And that didn't work terribly well, but I can click different things, or I can select the text directly and say, let's see, I want it to be black. So there's all sorts of things you can do. Let's see, and then the upload is here. So we all already have a bunch of uploads because this is actually the library's account that we're on right now. You can see there's the cat that I used, for example. And so you'd be able to upload your own pictures. And then for download, let's see if there was a, yeah, so they have an export to print option. Let's see, print. Oh, yes, they do have a print service that they're linked to. So you could use that potentially if you wanted to. That answers someone's question. Now let's see if it'll let me just delete it from here. Probably not, huh? Oh, I'll have to delete it later. I'm actually going to stop screen sharing for a second so that I can show you some of the mobile apps. Let's do that. Since we had a few people who were on mobile. All right, start now. Okay. And I had them open. So here's Photoshop Express. And this is another photo I took at Flowly. So you can see that there are different color filters you can apply. And then when you select one, you can adjust the intensity of it. So you can make things very yellow on this one, or you can tone it down a bit. You can also crop images. So if I just wanted this part of the image, for example. And then there's some adjustment options here. You want to sharpen it. Although typically if you sharpen things too heavily, it looks kind of distorted. Reduce the noise, dehaze, grain, fade, exposure. So there's a lot to play around with here, and I will confess that I haven't played around with all of it. You can remove blemishes. And then if there's someone who had red eyes in your photo, you can remove that. You can overlay text. So that's, you know, if you want to post on social media, some people like to do it that way. And they have stickers as well. So it's really a pretty versatile tool. And so if I wanted to add some party decor to my picture for some reason, I could do that. And they also have borders. So you can cut off the edges and make it a circle. No? Okay, it's not actually doing it, but there we go. For example, you can put the film strip edging on it. All right, and I'll just show you, let's see, we're doing pretty good on time. I think that's most of the features that you can do with this. Then you would hit next, and it gives you some options to export it. And it doesn't restrict the file size particularly. But if you want, you can adjust the quality, which is great for posting to the web because so if you adjust the size and the quality, you can have a smaller image that won't take so long to upload. Or if you're using a service that has a limited amount of storage, then it won't occupy as much of your storage, which is also super handy. And then, oh yeah, you can put a watermark on it if you want. And of course they advertise Photoshop and Creative Cloud and all of their other services. So feel free to chime in with some questions if you have questions about that, but that's Photoshop Express. This one is Pixlr, and you can see the ad at the top, right? So that's what you can expect from ads, is something relatively small and not too obtrusive, but it's there. And this is a photo that I took myself as well. When we had the horrible air quality and the sky was kind of orange. It didn't entirely come through in the photo though. So let's say if I want to give it an overlay to make it more obvious, I could do that. Or I could, let's see, I can go back. There are various styles I can apply. I can make it look sort of sketchy. Or give it some polygons. The pencil look, it's depending on your image, these may not come out very nicely, but it's neat to have the option. And then here's the borders. So you can add that dirty frame like I did for the previous one. The black bars, some flowers. And then you can overlay some text. Oops. And of course, if I type in front of people, I can't type properly. And then they'll let you pick the font and all that as well, and the color. All right. So I think that about covers it. So I'm going to stop sharing here and switch back to my PC. Just a little bit hesitant to do so. All right, and we're back in business, or we should be momentarily. There we go. Okay. Were there any of the tools that you were particularly interested in hearing about? Okay, no response so far. So I'll just show you, oh, we got something. Canva or Adobe? Yeah, so I already showed you Photoshop Express. I'm not going to be showing you actual full-featured Photoshop because I don't own it. And then this is Canva. I could show you another one of the formats, perhaps, to give you a different idea of what kinds of options they have. So let's put it as the Facebook cover page, and then they'll have different templates available. Let's see, where are the templates? So something like that, for example. And one of the options you have here that I didn't really cover is that they do have color filters on Canva as well. So you can alter the color balance. Or you can alter it more manually, give it a tint, for example, make it more blue. Make the edges sort of fade out like that, brighter, darker. Increase or decrease the contrast. Increase the saturation, you get the idea. And then it has effects as well. So it has that Duotone, like that dedicated Duotone site that I was talking about. You can pixelate it, and that takes a moment to process when you do any of the filters. Cancel. You can add this sort of, I guess it's going to be a rainbowy looking effect. Yeah, you can add a rainbowy effect. All sorts of distortions that you can add if you're into that kind of thing. For example. Okay. All right, and I'm going to cancel that. And then I'll just show you how the background remover works. So let's say, I think it works best in general with people and animals. Let's say a sailor. And you can do this with photos you upload as well, but so we can take this fella and hit background remover under effects. And it processes for a second. Your results can be variable, especially if the person or animal or what have you is very close in shade to the background. But in general, it works pretty well. See there, he turned out pretty good. And so now we have a sailor. Okay, and I'm going to briefly show you what GIMP looks like in particular because I have it open. And then I will turn off the recording and we can start asking questions on voice if you have any further questions I didn't cover. So here's another one of my photos. And it's rather scaled down. But it has all sorts of sort of the standard options. You can select and then crop to selection. Select by color, which is going to be useful if you want to remove the background. You can see it sort of captured some areas within the geese as well. So if I were to just remove the background, it would look pretty funny at this point. It's actually not too bad though. So what I would do in that case is I would do ellipse select, and where's the selection mode thing? Okay, well, I've kind of screwed up the display here, but there should be a option to do like remove from selection as opposed to add to selection. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. But yeah, so oh, that's interesting. There's also the selection editor tool. So this is a pretty, you can sort of see how this is a super complex program. You can posterize. And that's going to take forever if I let it do that. So let's hit cancel. But yeah, it has the same, you know, it has color filters, it has blurs. You can apply distortions. There's just so much, I can hardly even scratch the surface on this program. All right, so once again, the recording will be sent around most likely in a few days, and along with the slides and links for all of the resources I've talked about. For the mobile apps, it's probably just easier to search in your app store though, or the Play Store if you're using Google Android devices. But let's see, did we get more chats? No, we did not. But yeah, we'll have links for everything. And so thank you for coming. If you have more questions that we didn't cover, feel free to call the library 650-829-3860 or email us at ssfpladm@plsinfo.org, which I'll put in the chat momentarily. We also have a virtual tech drop-in that you can sign up with and get one of your usual preferred tech drop-in people to help you out. And that's that. Thank you for